What's up, everybody? Welcome to a PlayStation Conversation. I'm Greg, and this is the pride of Long Island, Colin Moriarty. Beyond indeed. Colin, over at that E3, Xbox came out and they said, hey, look at all these exclusives we have. We're taking the fight to Sony. Then Sony finally responded. What did they say?
They said they have 30 exclusive games in development, 12 new IP.
Yeah.
20 of the games will be available in the first year of PlayStation 4.
Okay, 30 exclusive titles. That's a lot. They don't have 30 first-party studios.
13 studios, technically.
Huh. So what does this mean?
Well, this is interesting because we don't really know what it means. I mean, so if you remember in the beginning of the PlayStation 3's life cycle, we got games like Heavenly Sword and Resistance Fall of Man and Haze and games like that were exclusive to PS3, but were not developed internally, but were published by Sony. So Insomniac worked on one of those games, and Ninja Theory worked on another of those games. So this indicates maybe that they're getting some third-party exclusives from different publishers, kind of like Titanfall with Xbox.
Right.
EA is publishing those. Yeah.
So then, does this point you think more to what we've come to know? You talked about the beginning of the PS3. I look at the end of the PS3, and we look at that PlayStation Network. Games like Journey, games like The Unfinished Swan, games that aren't necessarily from companies owned by Sony, but they've gone into these 3-game deals, they've done this, they want the best for their platform. Is that what you think's happening?
Yeah, I think that's it too. I mean, we already know that Giant Sparrow, who made Unfinished Swan, is working on a new game called Edith Finch.
Right.
And that's a PlayStation exclusive. You assume it's a PS4 game.
Right.
And they're internal at Sony Santa Monica, which is a studio that Sony does own, and they are publishing their games. But Sony Santa Monica is, of course, the God of War team. So
they got to be working on a God of War.
Yeah, so you assume they're working on God of War. I think what this also indicates is that maybe they're expanding some of the studio's size. I mean, we know Guerrilla is technically 2 studios now, and Guerrilla Cambridge, which used to be Sony Cambridge, is a 3rd studio now that works on Killzone or Killzone-like games. We know Naughty Dog's 2 teams. Sony Bend might have 2 teams because, I mean, these guys did Uncharted, then they did that Uncharted card game, and we don't know what they're doing since then.
Fight for Fortune, I remember it well.
I kind of like Fight for Fortune.
I know you did.
And we have, other studios, like Sony San Diego has, like, another team, technically, that doesn't work on the MLB The Show franchise. These guys did, like, Mod Nation Racers on Vita and stuff like that, so maybe they're working on a game. Studio Japan has many teams there, including Team Ico, which hasn't put out a game in 8 years.
It's coming any day now.
And, obviously the guys that are doing Rain, the Siren team, and all those kinds of guys. So I mean, this
always points back to something you said I thought that I found interesting. When Microsoft did come out and say, we have all these exclusives, people started freaking out. But you were very quick to point out, of course, remember that if you want to include all the exclusive Sony's, we're talking about Shatter, and we're talking about Dead Nation, and we're talking about games that maybe weren't these giant events, boxed games that were more on the digital side.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, and obviously Dead Nation and Stardust and all these really fantastic PlayStation Network games. You already mentioned Journey, Unfinished Swan. These are exclusives, and if you're counting those games as exclusives, which you should, but if you're counting anything on PlayStation Network that's an exclusive to PSN, that is exclusive, you're talking about like 6 a month.
You got that Men's Room Mayhem.
Well, that's on iOS technically too, but like
nobody cares about iOS. But Justin Davis isn't here.
Yeah, the point is that PlayStation already has an incredible ecosystem of exclusives, but certainly they're talking about probably the big echelon exclusives. And obviously, the Order 1886 is coming from Ready at Dawn. They're not internal at Sony Santa Monica, but Sony Santa Monica is helping them publish the game. So there's a lot of convoluted stuff going on with these teams and stuff like that. But it's exciting because even though Sony shut down Zipper and they shut down Studio Liverpool, and they shut down Big, it seems like they're investing more in the studios that already exist. And we can't forget studios like Quantic Dream that they don't own that are publishing only PlayStation games, and have basically said they're a PlayStation developer even though they're not owned internally. So it's just interesting where these games are going to be coming from and the types of games that we're talking about here.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be an interesting fall. PlayStation 4, Xbox One, head-to-head with a lot of exclusive content. Which console are you most excited for? Which one are you going to buy? Let us know in the comments below. Then make sure you keep coming here for all your PlayStation and Xbox One news beyond.